There are many issues related to diversification and the challenges of diversification. One, I mean, to put it very simply for a layman's audience, it's the addiction to oil or hydrocarbons. Simply put, you know, when you're getting, when you're extracting and getting a lot of money in a very simple manner, it's kind of hard to be disciplined. That's one primarily broad view. The difficulty of diversification in the Gulf is that many of the major companies and organizations are all kind of dependent on the oil rent, if you will. I mean, you know that not all Gulf states solely depend on oil. There's also gas, which is in Qatar. So anyways, this rent plays a major factor in all aspects of the economy. For example, many of the major mega projects, which are famous in the Gulf states. I mean, you know, for example, the UAE has, you know, Burj Khalifa, which is one of the tallest buildings of the world. You see that Saudi Arabia wants to implement the new NEOM mega project. You see these major hotels. So you see major investment into infrastructure. Well, what happens in this process is, you know, you have certain companies that bid for contracts, and so they get their money directly from the government to these big projects. What has that done for diversifying the economy? Really nothing, right? Because the money went into building a project. Of course, that project can add value. Some of the Gulf states has like a very strong business elite that have advantages to rents, and this kind of allows them to absorb some of the transfers from the government without actually benefiting the overall diversification of the economy. The other issue that is really important is the public sector employment of the national workforce. I mean, as you know, governments are very bureaucratic usually, and so that does not help with innovation. And furthermore, the fact that many people are being employed in the public sector, and they're actually underemployed, meaning they don't really have a strong role that they're even playing in the government. It's kind of like a way of transferring wealth. And what happens in this case is that's an opportunity cost for diversification and innovation, because if I can get a job in the public sector and I don't have to work in the private sector or create my own business or whatnot, I don't have to innovate, I don't have to diversify. And so this hits the core of diversification. It's the economic logic of the rentier state. And that is a problem. Now, not to say that diversification hasn't happened, or that the Gulf states have not progressed. I would argue they have not progressed enough for their situation. And, you know, the institutions of the Arab Gulf states really affect the way in which oil wealth or hydrocarbon wealth is transferred. For example, you have Norway, which is, you know, a hydrocarbon wealthy country, but the institutions of Norway have developed way before actually the discovery of oil. And there is a political logic when institutions of a state is formed at the same time of the hydrocarbon wealth discovery. And that really affects the way the business and economic logic of the state and society at large, which affects innovation, diversification. You have to have the right incentives, right? You have to have incentives for companies to invest in research and development, incentives for youth to take risks and become entrepreneurs. And under the current context, that has not been achieved to its fullest across the GCC.